Welcome back. Today we join a crew of craftsmen constructing an off-grid cabin in deep wilderness. Delivering heavy timber through dense forest requires specialized transport, setting the pace for a massive logistical effort. A flatbed trailer navigated through a flowing stream avoids creating deep ruts in the softer, muddy banks. The shallow water provides a firm, rocky base for the heavy Unimog tires to find traction. Securing the transport route early is vital before the ground freezes solid. Hours later, the payload arrives at the staging area. Operating heavy machinery in fading light changes the rhythm of the site. A mobile crane lifts the first interlocking courses directly onto the concrete foundation. Transferring the wood straight from the trailer to the structural base minimizes ground contact, keeping the timber dry and free of abrasive mud. The next morning, the wall assembly begins in earnest. The builders drive long structural screws vertically through the timber layers to lock them together. This rigid connection combats the natural tendency of raw wood to warp or twist as it dries. Every new tier is hoisted by the crane, allowing a small crew to handle massive weight. Guiding a suspended load requires constant communication to prevent the swinging mass from damaging the lower courses.
Ja.
Before a log rests in its final position, the crew packs thick wool insulation into the underside channel. Natural sheep's wool is highly breathable, allowing the structure to manage internal moisture without trapping condensation inside the joints. A worker guides the heavy timber over a concealed plastic pipe insert. These internal chases provide a protected route for future electrical wiring, eliminating the need to bore through solid wood later in the build. As the structure gains height, a secondary delivery arrives to supply the upper walls. The team coordinates crane lifts to maintain momentum. Leaving heavy timber exposed on the ground invites moisture absorption, so the wood is transferred directly into the active construction sequence. Constant material flow keeps the assembly efficient. By afternoon, the wall elevation climbs. Fitting interlocking corners demands tight tolerances. A short log segment is maneuvered into a precise notch while the crane maintains vertical tension. The suspension allows the builders to make micro adjustments without fighting the entire weight of the timber. A tightly cut saddle joint naturally compresses under the load of the roof above, creating an inherently weather-tight seal against driving wind. Managing these heavy lifts in a tight footprint requires specialized equipment. A compact tracked crane provides the lifting capacity of a full-sized rig while operating within the boundaries of the cabin itself. the manual control levers offer immediate tactile feedback to the operator. Maneuvering heavy suspended loads near unfinished walls leaves no margin for error. A sudden jolt could easily shift the carefully leveled structure below. To ensure a seamless fit, the crew uses a heavy wooden beam to manually hammer the timber. Striking the log with a softer block transfers the kinetic energy effectively while protecting the fragile edges of the structural timber from splitting. Seating the logs completely compresses the wool insulation in the horizontal grooves. The walls must be perfectly solid before framing begins. Checking the vertical alignment prevents minor deviations from amplifying as the wall rises. Plumb walls distribute compressive forces cleanly down to the foundation. When a joint requires field adjustment, a chainsaw makes rapid work of the heavy timber. Slicing precise notches on site allows the builders to adapt to natural variations in the wood. A powerful saw equipped with a sharp chain can carve away dense material in seconds, but one slip can ruin a primary structural member. The margin for error at this height is minimal. Precision is the mark of the craft. With the walls fully stacked, the focus shifts upward to the roof skeleton. Heavy nylon straps hoist the first rafter beams into place. Synthetic webbing grips the wood securely without gouging the finished surface. A worker fine-tunes the placement on the completed wall. Establishing the exact pitch early dictates the alignment for the rest of the framing. The interior space is now needed for the flooring structure. So the compact crane must be relocated. The operator retracts the hydraulic stabilizer legs that kept the machine planted during heavy lifts. Its continuous tracks distribute the machine's heavy weight across a wide surface area, allowing it to navigate the muddy staging ground without sinking. Driving it onto a trailer clears the immediate footprint of the cabin. Staging the site properly is just as critical as the carpentry itself. An organized work zone prevents delays and keeps the crew safe. In the final stages of the frame assembly, the primary mobile crane takes over the heavy lifting. A long timber is hoisted high above the structure to form the roof framework. Positioning structural beams at this elevation requires extreme care, as wind resistance on the suspended wood can easily pull the load off-center. Securing these rafters creates the defining gable profile of the cabin. The skeletal roof must be robust enough to carry a massive winter snow load. the main ridge beam is positioned at the apex, locking the entire structural system together. Long steel fasteners are driven deep into the joint to resist the outward thrust of the angled rafters. The crew uses a track-guided circular saw to trim the overhanging timber ends to an exact dimension. The aluminum guide rail ensures a perfectly straight plunge cut, leaving a clean edge that sheds water rather than absorbing it. Working at the peak exposes the builders to freezing wind, but securing the highest point of the structure is a major psychological victory. To protect the interior from the elements, a thick waterproof membrane is prepared on the ground. Weather sealing the structure is a race against time in the freezing temperatures. Additional support beams are cut to length on sawhorses below. Strapping the final timbers requires finding their exact center of gravity so they hang level during the ascent. A balanced load is far easier for the high-altitude crew to catch and maneuver. A final structural timber is lowered into place near the gable end. An impact driver sinks a heavy screw, permanently locking the joint. At this altitude, every movement requires deliberate balance. Climbing an aluminum extension ladder in bulky winter gear is inherently hazardous, making slow, methodical progress essential. Once these final connections are torqued down, the bare skeletal framing is complete. The cabin is now ready to receive its solid outer skin. Months later, the landscape is transformed. The finished cabin stands sealed against the freezing conditions, wearing a heavy winter snowpack. In the end, structure, landscape, and daily routine operate as one system. A solid foundation and careful craft have built a shelter that will endure for generations.